Hello, everybody. My name is Ana Rezende, and in this podcast, I will share my transformational journey to become a health coach. In each episode, I will address a different subject that impacts our health, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Because I've learned that being healthy means being in balance. If you would like to make amazing discoveries, improve your health, get inspired, and yet find sustainable ways to live and help the planet, tune in. You are in the right place. I'm your host, Ana Rezende, and Good is What Makes You Feel Well is Mama Terra's podcast.
Toma banho de cachoeira, abraça uma pessoa amiga, corre na chuva, escala a montanha, contempla a vista, transcende, levita.
Today's guest is someone whose career is defined by an unwavering commitment to patient well-being and advancing the frontiers of modern medicine. Dr. Stewart Lonky is a double board-certified physician and expert in medical toxicology with 4 decades of hands-on clinical experience and a deep-rooted passion for transforming healthcare. Now he's channeling that expertise into authorship with his groundbreaking new book, Outsmarting Obesity. A doctor uncovers the surprising links to obesity and offers a plan to reverse the damage. In this powerful work, Dr. Lonky goes beyond the surface to uncover the hidden drivers of the obesity epidemic, from biological and environmental factors to societal influences, and presents a practical, science-based roadmap for reclaiming health. Through advocacy, education, and collaboration, he's dedicated to raising awareness about the obesity epidemic and fostering an environment where health-conscious decisions become second nature. Join us as we explore the intersection of medicine, public health, and personal transformation with a physician who is not just treating illness, but challenging us to rethink the very foundations of wellness. Together, we can rewrite the narrative of obesity, paving the way for healthier generations to come. Please welcome Dr. Stewart Lonky. Hi, Dr. Lonky.
Hello, how are you, Anna?
Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you.
That's great. For us to start our conversation, I would like to ask you what, in this moment of your life, makes you feel well?
That's a great question. You mentioned that to me, and I think that knowledge makes me feel well. I spent so many years as a physician, and we learn about illness. We learn how to diagnose illness. We learn how to treat illness. And we always think it's great when we find an obscure disease that everybody else missed, and we're finding illness. Of course, the treatment sometimes is worse than the disease, but that was the thrill. But in my later years of practice, and now, and through my research that I've been doing, that I started way back when I first entered the clinical spectrum in my fellowship, that understanding why we become ill and what's really going on allows me to have a sense of, now I understand what it takes to be well. And so promoting wellness became much more important to me. Everybody said, well, it's easier and better to prevent a disease than to treat it. Those are loose words. Everybody says that. But the fact is, it's really true. But you can't prevent it if you don't understand what the basic problem is. And when it came to understanding why we get sick, in one particular instance, which prompted me to write a book, was, why are my patients getting bigger and bigger and bigger in my 40 plus years of practice? Why are they getting fatter? Why are we all getting fatter? And looking at the statistics, I recognized that what we thought we knew, we didn't know anything about. That was probably all wrong. It was a simplistic approach, but this is, 2025. We understand the human genome. We understand a lot of things that are going on in the cells in our body. And so what makes me feel well, the wellness in my life comes from really simple things like making the right choice at the supermarket. How's that? I mean, I really feel better when I buy something that it's supposed to be chicken and it doesn't have chicken plus 34 different chemicals in it to preserve it, to this, to that, right? And so my sense of wellness comes from knowing this, learning it, and then sharing it. And if you can share it, then maybe I'll do some good. Yes, have I, in 40 plus years of practice, had patients that miraculously got better despite me? Uh, um, yeah, they have. And that's a good feeling. But it's a better feeling to know that when you solve a problem and you know you're right and you know the science is there, that you can share it with people and say, if we all got smarter about this, we could really take better care of ourselves. We don't have to rely on the Food and Drug Administration. We don't have to worry about whether the government is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Because if we're waiting for them, I always tell people, if you're waiting for the government to fix this, it's like the play Waiting for Godot. Godot never shows up, of course. It's not going to happen. So my sense of wellness comes from a deeper understanding of why. Does that make some sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why I like your work so much because it resonates with my work. The work I'm doing now as a health coach is all understanding the root causes of diseases and why people are getting sick. Fighting this traditional model of treating the symptoms without checking the root causes, right?
Yeah, we become symptom treaters. And, I always just to joke with my patients and I say, we doctors are drug addicts. And they'd look at me and go, why? We just push drugs. That's all we do. We write a prescription. Oh, here, go to the pharmacy, get this, this, this. In my career, I have served as a regulatory officer for a medical device company. My brothers and I started a medical device company, and I took time from my practice and went down and set up research projects around the world. And I understood in dealing with FDA, you have to understand, FDA, drugs that are out there, people sit back and say, well, FDA approved this. They didn't approve anything. What they approved was the marketing language. So think of the Food and Drug Administration as the word police. That's who they are.
Mhm.
When you go to FDA, you go with a bunch of claims. I am going to claim that this drug does this and it won't kill you. Okay? So think of a drug as a chemical that does 12 things, one of which may help you, and the other 11 won't kill you. And as long as you can prove that, efficacy and safety is all they care about. So think twice when you're thinking, oh, there must be a pill for that. Yeah, there may be, and you may not get very much in the way of side effects. Of course, I'm a toxicologist, and that's what I do. I see people with toxic exposures. That was my basic research area on a biochemical level. And so the fact is that all of these drugs will change the biochemistry of your body to some degree. But I realize that, wellness comes from really understanding all of these things that are the basic causes of disease. And in obesity, people say, well, why'd you get so caught up in obesity? And I guess because I had so many big patients that had so many problems, and all they wanted was a shot or a diet pill or a this or a that, and they went on diets and they lost weight and then they gained it right back. And I began recognizing, along with a nurse practitioner that was working in my practice, that we were really losing this battle. And I think COVID showed us that there was more to obesity than just a physical appearance. There was the health effects.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that obesity is really an inflammatory state, and it is. So the one thing that's common to all people who are obese, that is, have BMIs over 30, is that inflammatory markers, there are certain markers in the blood that tell us, well, there's inflammation going on somewhere. They're all positive. So what's happening is all your cytokines are being revved up. Now, everybody knows, well, cytokine storm, that was the bad thing for COVID. Wow. Well, think of it this way. All the obese people already had that going on, and all we did was add a virus to it that made it worse. That's why they had worse outcomes. I mean, that was pretty simple. That's not easy to understand. And by knowing this and understanding, for example, why things are happening, gives me an opportunity to come forward with a plan for people. You know, it's called a four-step plan. It's in my book, Outsmarting Obesity. And that four-step plan is AIPE. We call it APE, and I'll go through that with you. But it's empowering for patients. I want to empower people to know you can do this. You don't have to feel bad about it. Okay. You know, you can joke about your size, so on and so forth. I joke with people. I say, look, I have a wife and two daughters. For example, and I know why women like shoes.
Tell me.
You want to know why women like shoes?
I'm not a shoe woman.
Okay, but many women are, right?
Yeah, I know.
You never look fat in shoes. When you put on a dress, you say, well, but I look fat in that, you know. But you put on a pair of shoes, they look good. They're on your feet. You don't say, I look fat in those shoes. You don't say that.
Good one.
Okay? I think obesity is the root cause of diabetes, heart disease, and about 11 different types of cancer. So if we look at chronic illness and we look at those illnesses, we realize, you know, this is a problem that we need to begin to deal with. And so it was worth my time to delve deeper. And, you know, and I'm sure in your work, you peel an onion and you find a new layer, and then you peel that layer and you find a new layer, and you keep getting deeper and deeper, and you get confused at first, but then the light shines and you say, I got it. I think I really understand why this is happening. And the serendipitous part was it put together all of my research background in environmental toxins and why this is happening. Isn't that amazing? So, you know, things happen for a reason. And that was my area of research, looking at air pollution and looking at oxidizers and how that affects lung tissue, because I'm an internal medicine doctor, I'm a pulmonary medicine doctor, and I'm a critical care doctor, and I'm a toxicologist. So I'm like all these things, and you're board certified in three different specialties. And you come back and you say, okay, isn't it funny that that's where it wound up, all that work? What I found was that what's happened to us, you can just take obesity, and I frequently do, and I talk, and I said, look, if I told you that in the last 50 years, we've spent $3 trillion on weight loss products, weight loss plans, diet foods, diet plans, shots, pills. And the success of that $3 trillion is spelled out in the fact that in those 50 years, we've gone from 14% obesity to 43% obesity. What?
What? Yeah.
Well, that wasn't very successful. Well, it was for the diet companies.
Yes.
Yeah, but they did very well.
And the pharmaceutical companies.
Oh yeah. Just go on a diet again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we have a maintenance program. Well, you can't stay on a diet. And the question is, people listening or watching are going to say, well, that's because you go back to eating. I have patients who have lost 40, 50, 60 pounds and then gone on a reasonable diet, maybe 1,800 calories, well balanced, they gain it back. And laboratory animals do the same things. And it's not just people that are getting fat. Our pets are getting fat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Animals in the wild are getting fat. What? Yeah, feral rats and mice and monkeys and marmosets, they're all getting fatter. That's interesting. Here's one. Laboratory animals, those mice and rats and whatever we use in guinea pigs in the lab. So when they're born in a laboratory, they are on a very controlled diet. They're getting fatter. How could that be? The best one is newborns are getting fatter.
Mm.
The average weight of a newborn has increased 25% in the last 30
Wow.
years. And it isn't because that fetus is going to 7-Eleven and buying Twinkies. Just, it is not. They're not doing that. So you say to yourself, oh, it must be in the genes. Well, you kind of, sort of, maybe a little right. But twin studies blow that theory because you could have twins, identical twins, same DNA, and one is fat and one is thin. How did that happen? So there's no fat gene. In fact, there are about 150 fat genes, if you want to put it that way. There are about 150, some say 160 genes in the human genome that are pretty similar, by the way, in rats and mice, between 140 and 160 in those species, but that are involved with metabolism. You know, you're eating too much, you're eating too little, you don't get hungry fast enough, your insulin is not responding right. All of these things that happen in obesity, they are controlled by multiple genes. For example, you have a gene, and I have it, and fetuses have it, that take a new cell that's developing, a brand new cell, and it is going to either become a muscle cell or a fat cell. What if that gene has been instructed to make primarily fat cells? That wouldn't be good. And that's what's happening. Now, what's doing that? Why did that gene get that instruction? And the woman over there who's pregnant, her fetus is not getting that instruction. It has to do with changes that occur on the surface of the gene. So think of a gene, there is that double helix in the DNA and it's all the strands, but there's a surface on it. Okay, so there's an outside layer, and on that outside layer, a small chemical complex can attach. We don't have to go into what it is, but it attaches. And that attached piece turns the gene on or off. Think of it that way. Well, for example, we have tumor suppressor genes, a lot of them. You want them turned on, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants their tumor
Yes.
suppressor.
Mm-hmm.
What if we turn it off? Well, then you're more likely to get a tumor, right? Because you're not suppressing them. We also have tumor promoter genes, just in case you're curious. We want them turned off. So what is it that's causing these epigenetic changes? What happened? Let's go back to obesity. In 1960, 61, John Kennedy became president. 14% of the population was obese. 5% of the kids were obese. Today it's 21%. 21% of our youth, kids under 16, are obese. That's scary. Who's
It
going to take
is.
care of all that childhood diabetes? Whose dollar is going to be spent on that? And all the complications, the blindness, the vascular problems, the wounds that won't heal, the kidneys that fail, all of that's what's waiting for these kids that are getting obese. So John Kennedy became president, 14% obesity, and he was pretty upset. We had this real boom in physical fitness, but at about the same time, we started developing the chemical industry in our world. We developed nonstick cookware. Isn't that great?
Mm-hmm.
Teflon and Teflon derivatives. They are all chemicals. Those chemicals leach into our food. We eat the food. We absorb those chemicals. Those chemicals are the chemicals that cause these epigenetic changes. In some research centers, they call them obesogens, these chemicals, and there's loads of them. The forever chemical, PFAS, that's used in nonstick cookware. We have forever chemicals used. In my house, my mother had a beautiful couch. Beautiful. I never sat on it. I never actually sat on the fabric. I sat on the plastic that covered the fabric, right? Get off that couch. That's for the company, not for you. Because she was afraid we'd get it dirty. And she'd have to call a professional in to clean it. And they didn't have Scotch Guard. They didn't have protected furniture. We didn't have baby pajamas that were flame retardant.
Mm.
Okay, we do today. It's a law in every state. But the problem is those flame retardants are also chemicals. And we put them on the carpeting. We plug in air fresheners into the wall and they make a nice smell, and all those little particles fall on the floor. And who crawls on the floor? Babies. And what do babies do with their hands? Put them in their mouth.
The pets
So, yeah, yeah.
step on it and lick their paws and
Yeah, and so pets are doing the same thing. So we're all in this conundrum of being exposed to these chemicals in our environment. In the United States, for example, there are 85,000 chemicals that are currently approved for use by the Federal Trade Commission. See, FDA has nothing to do with this. So you can plug that air freshener into your wall, and as long as it doesn't burn your house down, it's okay.
mm-hmm.
Did anybody check the chemical? No. Why bother?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is what's doing to us all of these chronic problems that, now you hear people talking from the government about this, and some people will say, well, they're crazy. They're not crazy. They're not. They're absolutely right. All the food colorings, all that other stuff, it's just chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
The studies that have been done on them are so few, and everybody always says, well, there's not enough of the chemical that you're being exposed to at a single time to make any difference. You know what the problem is?
But in a lifetime?
In a cumulative fashion, once they're in your body, how are you getting them out? Can you really get rid of all of those toxins? I mean, your liver is the only place, and your kidneys. I mean, that's it. Your liver has to break it down into something that's water soluble, because most of these toxins are organic chemicals, except for heavy metals. Heavy metals are water soluble, they go right out, unless you have a whole lot of them. Then they get deposited into tissues like bone or blood vessels or so on and so forth. So once you start getting a cumulative dose, the concept that your listeners should think about is you're walking around with a chemistry set in your body. And everybody's chemistry set's a little different. Now, don't panic, please, because you can do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the neat thing about it. You can't change your genetics. You can't change your genes. You can change your genes with a J. Those genes you can change. The genes with a G, you can't change. Okay? Those genes are unchangeable, but epigenetics are reversible. Here's the bad part. The bad part is that when an epigenetic change occurs, it lasts for a few generations. Eventually, it falls off, but sometimes we just replace it. That's why it seems that this is an inherited thing. It seems like obesity runs in families.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah. What I think it's really interesting about that is, and that is not only for obesity, but for obesity is really visible because people see the families, they are all chubby, right? And they say it runs in the family, but they forget the family lifestyle. Why they are all chubby? Because they all eat the same food. They all have the same habits. They all do the same things, live in the same toxic environment, right? Whatever that is. And that is why it's not the genes.
I'm not diminishing. Sure. And I'm not, look, if you're listening out there and watching, I'm not diminishing that, somebody who lives on a diet of, hot dogs, French fries, hamburgers, pizza, cotton candy, and ice cream. If that's your diet plus regular food, you have a problem. You're eating too many calories. But you should be getting full. Your brain should be telling you you've had enough, and it's not. And the reason it's not is because there's a hormone that's made by fat cells, actually, called leptin. Leptin is secreted by your fat cells telling you, hey, you know what? You've had enough. All right? And it tells the hypothalamus in your brain, stop eating. Enough already. All right? Well, what if your leptin is broken? Then you'll make a lot of leptin, but it won't work. What if the hypothalamus doesn't recognize the leptin? Oh, I don't know who you are. So these are all epigenetically controlled. Isn't this funny? So all of these epigenetic markers, when we look at them and studies over and over again, we say, boy, the pattern in obesity is distinctly different than the epigenetic pattern in people who are not, in the twin who's thin. So it has to do, yes, the diet, yes, the hormones, yes, all of these GMO type things that we're doing. I always tell people we're working on another book right now. I'm working on it with a colleague who's a biochemist who has made tremendous advances in understanding detoxification, how to stop, to block the absorption of these obesogens and other illness. We could look at rheumatoid arthritis and what we call lupus, and we could just go down the line of diseases. And there are so many epigenetic markers that are present. We've got to be better and make our children better and our grandchildren better by blocking the absorption of those chemicals, right? So we could do one of two things, and this is the way I look at it. We could go out in the world and lobby to stop the chemical industry from their influence. Good luck. It's not happening. 85,000 chemicals. The chemical lobby is very, very strong. Lots of money, lots of influence. Not happening. How about this? Everybody wants to save the planet, and I understand that. Okay? We want to make the environment safe. But let's take care of the planet that's inside our skin. That planet. And it starts with attitude and belief and decreasing your stress in life. Stress causes epigenetic changes. Okay? Isn't that interesting? And when you are at peace, those epigenetic changes actually reverse. The fact is that we can begin to, by adopting good health habits and repeating them over and over and over again, blocking those toxins from being absorbed into your body, from your GI tract mostly. Some are through the skin for women, makeup, lipstick, all of those things. You've heard of parabens. Look at your lipstick, look at your makeup. Parabens just keep it looking good. It's a chemical that's added to improve the shelf life of cosmetics, okay, and its appearance. That's what is present in most makeup. So if we could block those and we could actually eliminate those that have already gotten in, then we're going someplace. Now, I'm not talking about drugs. There's no drugs here. In the book, we're talking about all natural, biological methodologies to do this AIPE program, accept the fact that we're toxic. You have a toxic burden, I have a toxic burden, we're walking around. Identify, look around, where are you being exposed? What are your bad behaviors? Okay. Do you keep all of your cleaning goods in your kitchen? Probably not a good idea. It's not a good place for them. Okay. I would probably put them someplace else. Okay. Not where you're preparing food. Am I heating things up in plastic containers? Because the plastic has bisphenol A or bisphenol S in it, and it's leaching into your food, and you're giving that to your kids, and you're heating up the leftover baby food from yesterday, and you're giving it to your 6-month-old. Not a good idea. Use glass. I mean, those simple things. You can't be completely free of all of these toxins. And people say, well, I'll get rid of all my nonstick cookware. And I say, great, I did. We use ceramic, as much as we can. And sometimes we use cast iron, to be honest. But you don't know. You go out to eat, you eat a muffin. You're at the airport, you go to Starbucks. Maybe they used nonstick cookware. You're not going to be free.
No.
There's no person out there that has, oh, I don't have any toxins in my body because I eat organic. Sure. And the jet stream going over from China, coming over the United States, and that pays attention to the fact that you're an organic farm. So those particles avoid that farm because there's a big sign up there in the sky. It says organic farm, don't fall here. I mean, think about these things and think about the fact that we have control. You're not going to stop that, but you know what? If you are forearmed, okay, that's really good. You have the knowledge. You're smart enough to know now that I'm going to avoid all of those chemical additives as much as I can. And those that get through, I'm taking something a couple of times a day, a drop, a slurry, things that block the absorption. I take it when I eat. It has no taste whatsoever, but it's binding all of these toxins in my gut so that they don't get absorbed. The food, the nutritional parts get absorbed, but the toxic material, no, it gets bound and it goes out. That's a good start. You will start to notice small things happening. More energy, less depression, better sleep. Sleep is a really important thing. People underestimate the importance of sleep. Sleep is a time when your body recharges itself. The body has a chance to kind of detox itself, detox the brain, detox the rest of your body. And if you're not getting enough sleep, you're hurting your ability to eliminate, which is, so it's accept, identify, prevent, and eliminate, AIPE. And in Outsmarting Obesity, in that book that came out last year in September, we go through that in detail and give people, there's no diets in there. There's no, this is how you make chicken salad. What we tried to do in the book also is to get rid of this two notions. One, can you be healthy at any size? You've heard that, Anna, right?
Mm-hmm.
Embrace your body, your body type. You should embrace your body type. Fat shaming is ridiculous. It's bad. It's not right. And here's the good news for people. It's really not all your fault. It could be the fault of your great-grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That you were dealt a bad hand of epigenetic changes, but you can get rid of them. And that's the empowering part. Okay? But you may not become, olive oil from Popeye. I mean, she needed a good meal. She was a good advanced gal for a famine. I mean, if you were trying to sell a famine, you would send olive oil. You're not going to become that person. But the fact is, don't feel guilty about it. Embrace the fact that you are the way you are and you can do something about it for you, your kids, and your grandkids. That's number one. Number two, you can't be healthy at any size. You can be in physical shape at any size. So you can exercise. You can run. You can even play ball. Look at football players. They're great athletes. But I take care of a lot of football players who retired and take care of a lot of these athletes. And they get the same complications from obesity that non-athletes get. They get diabetes. They get heart disease. They have strokes. Those are the costs of obesity. So it is something that we need to work at. But it is a work in progress. And that's the second part, that you can't really be healthy at any size. That was a bad message to be going out there because people thought, oh, it's okay to be obese. No, it's not. Every study that's ever been done in the US, the UK, Eastern Europe, and in Asia, big studies show no. Diabetes, heart disease, 11 types of cancer, atherosclerotic disease, high blood pressure, all those things which take a toll are increased in obese people, even if they are active. Well, let's put it that way. They're involved with sports, they're very active. So it doesn't matter. Being in cardiovascular shape has been confused with being healthy. It's not. Number two, don't sweat it. Don't kill yourself if you go off your diet. It's just a diet, okay? Stop beating yourself up. You know what's wrong. You understand it now. You know when you go off. You know the good things that you're doing to try and stop that. You have a bad day, it's a bad day. Okay? It's your kid's birthday party, and they had cake with ice cream. Don't, I can't have that. No, stop. Okay? Because then what you're making yourself a victim. And when you victimize yourself, let me tell you, the stress level goes up. And as I said, Anna, and I'm sure you've had guests on that have talked about this, when your stress goes up, you're not healthy. There are so many bad things that happen from heart problems, the cardiovascular system, and now you're understanding epigenetics change the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
When you're stress free and you do things like meditate, people say, well, I do meditation. And I say, that's fantastic. Just do it on a regular basis. The funny thing about epigenetics is it doesn't respond to sporadic interventions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There have been a number of studies done looking at epigenetic signatures with exercise. So people who exercise on weekends, not everyone, because I had to go away and my kid had a soccer game and I was busy and I was whatever. They don't get favorable epigenetic changes. But people who exercise Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 20 minutes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, their epigenetic changes, signature changes. Don't ask me why. That's the next level. Why? Why is that? What signals are being sent? I don't know that yet. I don't think anybody does. But we do know that there are certain behaviors that will favorably change your epigenetics. And in Outsmarting Obesity, we have a whole section on the psychology of it. Really, what is it about this behavioral modification that makes a difference? That's why all these diet companies, if they're worth anything, they also have a psychological group that supports them, saying, if you take our pill, yeah, it's going to help a little bit, but you really have to get into the right mindset. And, general health and people who meditate, for example, people who meditate every day tend to be so much healthier. And you say to yourself, why? Oh, God likes them better. No. Maybe he does, or she does, or it does. I don't. But there's a science behind it. As we started this conversation, and I said to you, knowing these things, I've been more at peace now in my life than I have ever been before. I mean, do I have stress in my life? Yeah, I have deadlines like you have. You wrote a book. Writing is a very lonely endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you have is your keyboard and your fingers and your brain. And if you write fiction, and I write nonfiction and I write fiction. Sometimes you invent these characters, you start talking to them later. And the problem is when they talk back, you know you have a problem. But being serious for a moment, I can handle the stress better, understanding that it's not going to do me any good. It's only going to do me harm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something very liberating about that, about feeling healthy because you know why certain things happen. And as a physician, not concentrating so much on disease and concentrating on wellness became very important.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So when that change occurred in your career, because you went to school, like traditional medical school. So when or what made you change your path to prevention instead of treatment?
When I was well into my practice and I take care of people who have been injured because of chemical exposures.
Mm.
And as I started to understand, and because some of it's in the legal realm, so I do what's called medical legal medicine, as well as go to the hospital and take care of patients on ventilators, which I did for 40 some years, make my daily rounds and see my asthma patients and so on, and diabetics in the office. I was seeing an ever-growing number of people who were injured because of what they were exposed to. And what I realized that there was not a lot you could do, but that sometimes these injuries could be avoided if the people running the place that they're working at, or if it's not at work, it's crop dusters that are spraying, because I see people in the Central Valley of California. So that's pretty much the breadbasket up there. And they grow crops, they grow fruits, they grow vegetables, they get exposed to different chemicals and so on and so forth. If they had just been educated to not have lunch where they're spraying the chemicals, how about that? That's pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
That was when it changed. It changed for me when I realized I can't help these people unless we educate people how to avoid it. Not only them, but the people that are most of the time unwittingly exposing people to harmful circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
That was when that transition began. I started to say, I gotta stop. I can't treat their illness. What I can do is prevent it.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to understand it a little bit better. About that same time, I started to realize, God, look at all these patients in my office. I saw you last year, you were 185 pounds. That was significantly overweight, but now you're 242. And, I'm afraid of where you're going to be next year when I see you. I don't know if you'll be able to sit in the seat. We got to do something. Well, I only eat salads. I always hear that. And I know now. No, I know that, yes, they eat mostly salads and they eat some junk just like everybody else, but it's not what they're putting. The food pyramid, the whole thing, calories in, calories out, it's a lie. It doesn't matter. Some of these people really are watching their diet, but it doesn't matter what they put in their mouth. They're going to make a fat cell because that epigenetic change is there and that calorie comes in and let's make a fat cell. We just made one, make another. And that's the direction that the gene is getting. Unless we can do something to help them change that, it's just going to keep getting worse. And so treating those kinds of patients, and some of those patients, unfortunately, particularly in industry, I've learned that sometimes the owners of the business that's poisoning their workers, they know they're poisoning their workers. And,
Yeah, that is sad.
That's a sad situation. That's the medical legal part of it. And we need not get into that right now because I wind up getting deposed a lot. And, lawyers are part of my life as a medical legal expert, but that's what I do part of the time. I understand that there are things that could be done to protect people, but the wellness bug hit me then. And then I started meeting a whole lot of great people in the nutritional industry. And I got to know some wonderful naturopaths. I was up in Canada for some meetings and some talks I gave, and I met wonderful naturopathic physicians and nurse practitioners. And I looked at the data and I said, most Western doctors, they shrug this stuff off as witchcraft, but it's not. It's not at all. And so being the scientist that I am, and, that's my background. I mean, I published in some of the highly respected journals out there when I was in my academic career, and I was there for 10 years at UC San Diego, and I loved every minute of it. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. I think that I realized that there's science there, but nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to look at it because drug companies don't want to look at it. And if you can't get a patent on a molecule because it occurs in nature, it's valueless to a drug company. I hate to say this, but it's true. Mm-hmm. I'm sure many of the people who are your fans and your watchers and viewers and listeners, they know this. Mm-hmm. Driven by profits, not really where you want it to be. It's not the altruistic part of me that I thought medicine could be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's where I got started.
Yeah. But I love the fact that you said we cannot battle the chemical companies, 85,000 different chemicals, and we cannot count on FDA. And that is absolutely true. And it happens not only with the chemical companies, but with the food companies, because they are all chemical food companies, right?
We are, you know what, and that's why podcasts like yours and others that I've appeared on, and I appear on many, and they're fun because I know the viewers, although it's not millions and millions, it's concerned people who are probably going to take what we say and do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to be a groundswell movement. It's got to be from the ground up. It's not going to be top down.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of movement, and people call you crazy and tree huggers and whatever you want to call it.
Dreamers.
A dream, but you know what? It's not a dream. There's absolute science behind all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good science. Trust me, I would not be putting stuff out under my name. I have my reputation is too important to me. So before I put something in print, it is going to be absolute. But at the same time, it's going to be absolutely true and defendable. That's why my book, although it's written a lot like I speak, I mean, I can make things simple, tough scientific ideas. I can distill it down and make it funny so people will remember it. But that's all I want. I just, I did that when I was a professor at UC San Diego. I just entertain, but teach, okay, at the same time. And the fact is people who take this information, I want them to know that it's real and that you're not crazy and that the old way of doing things, of thinking about things, just didn't work. $3 trillion going from 14% to 43%, I would call that failure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's a failure. The funny thing about food companies is look at our schools, these grassroots organizations funded by food companies. And I go into this in detail in the book Outsmarting Obesity. There's a whole chapter on the politics. These food companies have wormed their way they create these names. Healthier Children Initiative. Who would argue against the healthy initiative, the Healthy Children Initiative? Anybody? No, I'm against the healthy. No. What is the Healthy Children Initiative? It's an initiative that was on the school lunch programs, okay? And saying what's good and what's not good. Well, they're not eating the school. Well, let's put McDonald's in. Maybe they'll eat that, right? That's the Healthy Food Initiative is not a Healthy Children Initiative. It's a lobbying group that wormed their way onto school boards and they became important to corporate organizations. A corporation will say, okay, we want to have a cafeteria, we want to offer healthy alternatives. So they hire this Healthy Alternative Initiative group. Then they come in and they couldn't care less. But they want to push their food, So Nabisco may be there or whoever it is, okay? PepsiCo. And, well, let's use corn chips instead of potato chips. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Our kids are being the whole way commercials are done, the whole way food is arranged in a supermarket. There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that stuff is up at the front.
Yeah.
To catch your eye. And, the bottom line is we all fall for it. But here's the good news. I don't worry about it because I block this stuff. I don't get the chemicals. I'm eliminating those that get in. I'm not having any more children. See my wife. I'm not. We're well beyond that. My grandchildren are ready to have children. But the fact is that's what you should do. You should say, okay, I read it. I read it again. I understand it. On my website, I have a newsletter. It's drlonky.com. So it's really pretty easy. Lonky. drlonky.com. You can get the book, but you can also sign up for the newsletter and other briefs that we do. I'm just staying abreast of all the new stuff that's coming out all the time on our toxic environment. By empowering ourselves and learning and understanding, that's why I don't feel bad about what I'm exposed to as much. I rest easy knowing I'm doing everything I can possibly do to make myself healthy. And that's where I would like your audience to be. Obviously, you're there. You have embraced this idea, and the less reliance on chemicals and so on and so forth, the better. There's a wonderful app. I want to just mention this before we go
Mm-hmm.
for your phone. It's called Yucca.
Yucca.
Yuka.
Ah,
Okay, it's free.
okay.
You put it on your phone, you take it to the supermarket, you scan a product, it recognizes it immediately.
Okay.
It tells you if it's bad, poor, okay, good, or excellent.
Okay.
And it'll tell you why. It says, okay, it's this one's bad, it has no chemicals in it, but it's too calorie rich. Well, you can stand back and say, okay, it has no chemicals. I understand I'm going to use this once in a while, this ice cream, okay, this frozen yogurt or whatever it is. And it's funny because the same company will make a different flavor, and one will be excellent, the other one will be terrible. My grandkids get a kick out of it because they say, M&M's got a zero, Papa. I said, really? Got a zero? Yeah. It has no value whatsoever. Okay. Well, it's wonderful because, for example, if you're going to have a people coming up to the holiday season here in the summertime, barbecues come out and stuff like that. My wife was in the market looking for a hot dog or hamburger roll or something like that. She said everyone got poor except one. So I bought that one. And it was all because of chemical additives. And do you want to know something? It was delicious. It was the best hamburger bun I've ever had.
Hmm.
So the bottom line is put the Yucca app on you. It's entertaining if nothing else. And you'll see why certain foods, why it gives the grades it gives.
Uh-huh.
So it's a very interesting app.
And it's
But
educational for kids, I think,
oh, the
because
kids love it. They
yeah.
love going, they scan everything. Would Nana let us have that? I don't think so. Okay, well, okay. So I have a friend who's coming up with something, the fellow that wrote some of the pieces for Outsmarting Obesity. His name is Chris Talley. Chris is a sports nutritional expert, but more than that, he's a high performance expert. So he's the nutritionist, by the way, for the NFL teams.
Okay.
He's the nutritionist and dietitian for just about every A-list person in Hollywood.
Oh.
And so he's a very accomplished guy. Chris is a genius. But he's coming up with an app, and I certainly announce it on my website for going to any restaurant, chain restaurants, not Denny's or this or that, all the menu items. What is the nutritional value
Mm.
of all of this? He's added to each chapter in the book something that he's done with an athlete that changed the chemical mix that they were eating,
Mm.
how they were doing nutritionally, and how it changed their performance. And you'll know these athletes, okay? You'll
Mm-hmm.
find out, you'll see. One surfer, it had to do with the surfboard wax he was using.
Oh,
It was affecting his muscles, and he was
wow.
losing his skill until they analyzed the surfboard wax and realized, holy mackerel, there's stuff in there that's going to impede your muscle twitch speed. We got to change that. And as soon as he changed it, he went back to being a champion again.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So I think these are the kinds of stories that I think your viewers and listeners are going to say, you know what? There's some sense to all of this. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all I want you to do is I want you to just understand, embrace your health. Knowledge is health.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah. And I love what you said earlier about being so hard for us to change the world because we have to battle those big companies, big dollars, but we can take care of our internal world.
Yes,
And
our planet.
this
This is the
is,
planet.
yeah, this is the planet. And this is what I have 100% agency over, right? With all this knowledge, I can avoid and prevent my body to get all those chemicals and all those bad things that are turning my genes on and off, right?
Yeah, and I think it's people like you that do podcasts like this that introduce people to a different slant on wellness, you probably underestimate the effect that you have on people by bringing, people like me who can't shut up sometimes, but because I believe in what I'm doing and I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, that is what we want.
Yeah. So, you do a great service. It is wonderful to meet people like you. And when I met you at the LA Festival of Books, when I realized and you told me you were a podcaster, and I said, wow. I looked at the book that you'd written and so on and so forth, and we chatted for maybe, 5 minutes or so. But there was a connection that I knew that you represent the kind of person that attracts the audience that will be the spearhead for a movement of wellness. There are many people like that. Tip my hat to you, and thank you very much for having me here.
Oh, thank you. Ah, that was absolutely lovely. There is one sentence here in your book that I would like to read because I think that sums up everything that we said. And that is on the third section when you start talking about the method, the AP method, right? Then you said, we'll never medicate our way to obesity epidemic. No one is coming to save us. We must save ourselves. And that is the absolute pure truth. We must save ourselves. So with knowledge, we are just giving people power to change their internal world.
They are. That's what we hoped. We wrote this, and I wrote this, along with Chris and some other input. But we really hope that people understand. Take back control.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give it up so easy. All right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. The title of the book is Outsmarting Obesity. Is it available through Amazon?
Yes, it's available through Amazon. It's available at my website. It's available at barnesandnoble.com. So, yeah, it is.
Yeah, great.
There's an audio version and there's a Kindle version, whatever you want to call it.
Did you record it yourself?
No, I didn't. I wanted to get somebody else's voice. And I
Okay.
found a great voice. He was great.
Oh, nice. That's nice. And then the website is drlonky.com.
Yes.
And everything is there. I'll have everything on the show notes so people can find the book easily and find your website easily.
Thank
And
you.
I hope everybody will read because this is really great information. And I love that you have all the chemicals listed with all their effects on the body and everything else, and the easy tips and easy things that we can do to avoid them. So it's really incredible. And the research, looking through the notes, almost 100 pages of notes. So you can tell it's a lot of research
It was a
into
lot.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, and thank you for accepting my invitation. It was lovely to talk to you.
Anytime. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening. It means a lot to me that you chose to be here. To help Mama Terra's mission of making the world a disease-free place for generations to come, you can follow the show, write a review, or talk to your friends about it. You can also subscribe to my newsletter. Every week, I craft good health and wellness tips, recipes, and book recommendations with love and care, just for you. My intention is to give you information and resources to help you make good choices and feel well. Find the link to subscribe in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you again for being here. We have lots of new episodes coming up, so stay tuned. And remember, good is what makes you feel well.
Transcende, levita, toma banho de cachoeira, abraça uma pessoa amiga.